Got another great project for you today. This one is called Crossy Road or Frogger. In essence, what this is there's three sprites. There's a hero, there's an enemy, and there's a goal. Let me click into full screen and show you how this works. So we click on the green flag and we have our hero here. And what happens is enemies randomly spawn from the left or the right side, and we have to get to the goal. When we get to the goal, we reset at the bottom. If we hit an enemy, we get bounced back to the bottom. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to see how high we can get this level up to without getting hit. So what we're going to have is we're going to be doing a couple different things with different pathways and some random variables. But let me show you how this works. And so what we're going to do is we're going to exit full screen. We're going to click on the stop button, and we're going to go ahead and get started with coding this. So let's clear out this existing code here. And we're going to start from scratch. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we want to make some character controls. That's going to allow us to move that hero up, down, left, and right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into events. We're going to get ourselves 4 when green flag clicked. And this is what's going to actuate our up, down, left, right, and up, down, and our left, right arrow keys. And so what we're going to do then is we're going to get a couple forever loops from control for these. Going to pair these right up here. And then inside these forever loops, what we're going to do is we're going to put some if-then conditional statements inside. So we're going to get 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into sensing. And what we want to do is we want to sense whether or not a certain key space is being pressed. And so we're going to grab a couple of these, and then we're going to do up, down, left, and right. So just to make this visually easier, we're going to make this up. We're going to make this one down. And then we're going to have a left and a right. So for the up arrow, what we're going to do is we're going to grab ourselves from motion. We're going to grab ourselves a change Y by block. So we're going to get this change Y by, and we're going to change this by 20. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves another change Y by, and we're going to change that by a negative 20. And then what we're going to do for the left and the right is we're going to get ourselves a change X by. We're going to change X by a negative 20. And then we're going to get ourselves another change X by, and we're going to make that a positive 20. And so now what we have is our 4 different character controls, and that's going to allow us to move our hero up, down, left, and right. The next thing that we're going to want to do is we want to basically create a condition for when we hit that any of the enemies. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to events. We're going to get ourselves a when green flag clicked. We're also going to get ourselves a forever loop from control. And then inside of that forever loop, we're going to get ourselves an if-then conditional statement. And what we want to do is we want to sense a touching condition. And that touching is going to be whether or not we're touching the enemy. And so if we're touching the enemy, what we're going to do is we want to reset ourselves back to an XY position. And we're going to start that off as where it's currently at, which is at the bottom of the screen. So that X position is 1, and that Y is in negative 160. Next thing we want to do is we're going to create a couple different variables here. So the first variable that we want to create is enemy frequency. We're also going to create a variable that's going to be called level and path chooser. So let's create these right now. Level, and then the final one is going to be path chooser. So these 3 new things here. So let's put path chooser up on the right, and then we're going to do enemy frequency here. So that's going to allow us to keep track of these ones. And the ones that we created, they have the blue check marks by them. So that's going to allow us to track that. So let's go back into events. We're going to get ourselves a when green flag clicked. What we want to do is we want to start those variables off at something. So we're going to say that our enemy frequency, what we want to do is we want to grab that drop down. We're going to change that enemy frequency to 2. And then what we want to do is we want to make sure that we set our initial level to 1. And this is going to be important later, as you'll see. So we change that level to 1. And then the next thing that we want to do is we always want that hero to start off at that XY position at 1, and a negative 160. The next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to create our final boundary condition. So we're going to grab ourselves a event block. We're going to get a when green flag clicked. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a forever loop from control. And then what we're going to do is we're going to nest two if-then conditional statements inside of each other. And for the first thing that we want to do, we want to say if we're touching the goal, right? So if we get up to the top of the screen, we want to be able to do something. So we're going to say if we're touching the goal. And then basically what we want to do is if we're touching the goal, we want to also have an and. So when we nest these things, it's like an and sort of block. And so what we're going to do is we want to do an operator. And what we're going to do is we want to check what our level is. And so if our level is less than 20, what we're going to want to do is we're going to change our enemy frequency to keep going. So let's check the level. So we're going to drop that right in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do change enemy frequency. And we're going to change that enemy frequency by a small number. So let's have that be a negative 0.05. And then the next thing that we're going to do is outside of this, what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a change level by. So we're going to put this right outside of our first conditional statement, or our nested conditional statement. We're going to change that level by 1. And then the final thing that we're going to do is we're going to have that go back to that 1, negative 160. So we're going to grab a go to, and we're going to do that there. So that's all the code for the hero. And now what we want to do is we're going to go into our enemy and we're going to create a couple blocks of code. So we're going to have 3 different options for how we get started here. But first what we're going to do is we have to say what we're going to start off as. So what we do is we first start off with the when green flag clicked in events. And within there, what we're going to do is first we're going to grab ourselves a hide block. And so typically when we grab ourselves a hide block, that means that we're going to be creating clones of ourselves. So we're going to go back into control. We're going to get ourselves a forever loop. And inside that forever loop, what we want to do is we want to have it wait. So we're going to have it wait. But instead of it being 1 second, what we're going to do is we're going to have it wait enemy frequency seconds. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we want to set our path chooser. So we're going to put this here. We're going to set our path chooser. And instead of it being like a 0 or like a fixed number, what we want to do is we want to have it be a pick random. So we're going to have 3 different paths that'll be an option for this. So we're going to have it pick random between 1 and 3. Then what we want to do is we're going to go to looks, and we want to have this change our color effect. So this is going to allow the enemy to look a little different, but instead of it being just a fixed number, what we're going to do is once again grab ourselves a pick random, and we're going to have this vary between 1 and 255. And then the final thing that we're going to do is we want to create a clone of ourselves. And so we're going to grab this here. And so now what we want to do is we're going to give it instructions to say what happens when I start off as a clone. So we're going to do 3 different ones of these. So we're going to grab 3 different when I start as a clone. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to get ourselves an if-then conditional statement. And what we're going to do is inside of that, because we have these 3 different paths, what we're going to do is we're going to be checking whether or not that path chooser equals a certain thing. So we're going to get ourselves an operator block, the equal operator block. And we're going to do this one first for path 1. So what we're going to do is we want to look for this variable path chooser. We want to see whether or not it equals 1. If it equals 1, what we're going to do is we're going to switch our costume to costume 2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have it go to a certain position. So we're going to say go to, and our X we're going to start off as a negative 240, and our Y is going to be negative 100. And so what this means is that at X being a negative 240, it's going to start off on that left-hand part of the screen. Y as a negative 100 is going to start off a little lower than 0. And so this is going to be that positioning. Once we do that, we're going to show. So we're going to grab ourselves a show block. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have this basically do a repeat until it gets off the screen. And so we grab ourselves a repeat until block. We're going to put this under show. And what we're going to do is we're going to check whether or not this is off the screen. So we're going to grab ourselves a greater than operator, and what we're going to be looking for is our X position. So we're looking for our X position, and if our X position is greater than 230, it's going to keep on going until it does that. So we have it move. We're going to have it move at about 2.5 steps, just so that it sort of goes across the screen like you saw in the lead in. And then once all that is done, what we're going to do is we're going to delete that clone. So we're going to grab this. We're going to say delete this clone. All right, so now we're going to do this 2 more times. And so we're going to get ourselves another if then. We're going to get ourselves another operator, that equal block here. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this path chooser to be equal to 2. And if this path chooser is equal to 2, then what we're going to do is once again, we're going to switch that costume to costume 2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a motion block, and we're going to have this go to an XY position. This position we're going to start off as, once again, on that left-hand side of the screen at negative 240, but this Y we're going to start a little higher. We're going to have this at Y equals 85. Once we've got that done, what we're going to do is we're going to show, and then we're going to get ourselves another repeat until block. So we're going to go back into control. We're going to get ourselves a repeat until block. And within that repeat until block, because it's once again starting off at that left-hand side of the screen, what we want to do is we want to check whether or not it's gotten to the right-hand side of the screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to check our X position within motion. So we check our X position. If our X position is greater than 230, what we're going to do is we're going to have that move by 2.5 steps again. And then once all that is completed, what we're going to do is we're going to delete that clone. So we grab this delete this clone block. We're going to put that right there. Let's move this up so we can do our final one. When I start as a clone. And so what we're going to do is, now this one is we're going to be checking for if path chooser is equal to 3, right? From this random number generator here. So we're going to get another operator block. This is going to be that equal. We're going to put 3 in here. And obviously you can do a couple different path choosers. You can do as many as you want. You just have to change this pick random to be whatever the number you end up deciding. So let's get a variable. We'll grab ourselves path chooser. And then if path chooser equals 3, then what we're going to do is we're going to switch costume to costume 1. The reason we do this is we're going to start this one at the right-hand side of the screen. And so costume 2 basically has that enemy face to the right, but costume 1 has it facing to the left. And you're going to see the difference here. So we're going to go into looks. We're going to get ourselves a switch costume. We want this to be costume 1. And then we're going to have this to position. So we're going to say go to X, Y position. We want this one starting off at 240. So this is going to start off at that right-hand part of the screen. We're going to have that Y position be 8. Then we're going to get ourselves a looks block. We're going to show it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves another repeat until block. And this repeat until block, what we're going to be doing is this is going to be a less than operator because we want this moving until it gets off to the left-hand side of the screen. So we're going to be checking whether or not it's less than a negative 230. We're going to be checking that X position to see if that condition is met. And then instead of it moving a positive 2.5 steps, what we want it to do is move a negative 2.5 steps so that it's constantly advancing to the left-hand part of the screen there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to delete that clone. And so that's the final bit of code for the hero and the enemy. The goal doesn't have any code. This just sort of exists for us to be able to reference. So let's click on full screen. Let's see how this works. So we click on the green flag. We see our first enemy from the left coming. So what we're going to do is we're going to move up. We're going to wait for that to pass by. And then we're going to go to that goal. We're going to try to go, yep, we got there. Then let's hit an enemy just to see what happens. We see that it resets us. And we see that we have enemies coming from the left hand and the right hand part of the screen. And like I said before, you can add as many of these as you want. You just have to change that path chooser to a different variable. It can be 1 to 4, 1 to 5, 1 to 7. And you have to vary the costume 1 or the costume 2 in that X and Y position. So I'm going to stop this here. Hope you all enjoyed this project, and we hope to see you back for the next one. If you want to give us a like, a comment, a share, or a subscribe, we'd be so appreciative. Thank you so much.